In today's business world, it's easy to get caught up in the glamour and promise of paid marketing to bring customers into your business.
So in this episode, we're going to talk about why every business should use organic marketing before and in conjunction with using paid marketing.
Are you frustrated by a lack of momentum in your business? Tired of putting in long hours doing what everyone says you should and still not making money? Sounds like you're ready for Lifestyle Builders. We'll help you get back on track, taking action, and seeing results. Head over to joinlifestylebuilders.com today to get started. All right, as you can see today, we have a special guest with us, and his name is Theo the Cat. I am sure he's going to leave us at some point during this episode or, decide to walk across the desk, so don't be surprised.
All right, so kicking things off, one of the things we see all the time is businesses paying for marketing and not having success with it.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'll tell you what, there's probably fewer ways to blow your budget faster than with trying to do marketing and not having it convert and work for you.
Yeah, it's very frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen, unfortunately, so many businesses that are just spending money, and they're not getting conversion rates. They're not getting new customers to come in. And I mean, that can completely cripple a business.
Yeah, I mean, when you're spending thousands of dollars on Facebook ads, for instance, and you don't have anybody convert to buying your product.
Yeah. And so, a lot of people don't want to hear this because they get bought into oh, well, if I just, create a product or service and then I can just run these ads to this webinar and everything will work out perfect. And what most businesses fail to realize is that early on in your business, there is a lot of testing.
Mm-hmm.
And before you ever spend any money on paid marketing, what you actually want to do is do organic marketing or really non-paid marketing. And when most people hear this, they're like, yeah, but that sounds like work. And it's like, yeah, well, running a business is work.
Yeah, it is.
So what we want to do today is really talk about, organic marketing versus paid marketing, where each one fits in and how to use them in your business to ultimately achieve more success that we're all looking for.
Yeah. Here's the first tip. Organic marketing is free. I mean, other than paying for the costs of whatever tools you're using in your business, organic marketing gives you the capability to put things out there and see how they do. You can test different copy, different messaging, different images. How does your audience respond to a question versus a post to teach them something? You have this option to put all of this stuff out there. You have the option to run webinars or masterclasses or free live video trainings, whatever you want to call them. You can do all of that without putting a lot of money behind any kind of paid ads and see what works first.
Well, I was going to say, and so one of the things that people don't realize, especially when they're starting a business, that first sale is the most difficult sale you're ever going to make. And that's why if you ever go into a retail store or a restaurant, they have that first dollar on the wall because that first dollar took so much time to get to.
Mm-hmm.
And there's reasons for that, because when you go to start a business, you're either going to start by focusing on, this is the group of customers I want to serve, or this is the product I have or service I have, and I need to find the group of customers that this will serve. Excuse me. So with that, you're going to go back and forth because you have an assumption about what that is. But guess what? Your assumption's wrong. And it's not until you talk to enough customers that you really figure that out. And so once you know who the customers are, what part of the market, and then you have the right solution for them, you then have to craft really your marketing and sales message to help them realize that this is the right solution for them and that you're the right person to work with so that they give you money. There's 8 different pieces that I just talked about there. And if you're trying to spend money on paid marketing and you don't make sure all of those pieces align, what ultimately happens is, like you said, you spend thousands of dollars and people get stuck at some point along the way. Maybe
you have
you're
a
not
bottleneck. That's what we like to call
You are
it.
hanging out in the
I am
way
hanging out with
too
you
much.
way too much.
But yeah, there's a bottleneck. There's a part of the process where they get stuck. Maybe you're not hitting the right pain point for them. Your solution could be phenomenal, but if you're not hitting the right pain point, they're all going to get stuck there. And it's so much cheaper and easier to figure that out organically than when you're trying to run paid traffic.
Yep.
Now, if you already got a business and you're rolling out a second business and you can spend $20,000 to test all of this stuff. You might be able to do it faster, but for most of us, we don't just have $20,000 rolling around to test something new.
No.
So that's why being able to do this organically and free makes a lot more sense, and then rolling that into a paid marketing strategy later on.
Yeah. And I just want to take a step back because all of the stuff that you just mentioned, kind of figured like talking about your first sale and who you're selling to and what you're selling, all of those pieces, that's something that we talked about way back, Throwback Thursday in show 5, testing your business idea and making sales. So if you want to take a listen to that episode, it's tomandariana.com/5.
Yeah, that is a throwback.
That is. Wow.
Well, and so, a lot of people then say, okay, well, if I'm not paying for marketing, like how do I do organic? And one of our biggest recommendations is find where those people are and go there. It was funny. I had a coaching call this week with a client, and she was like, well, I'm not really going to be able to get much done next week because I'm supposed to be doing these customer interviews, but I'm going to a conference, so I'm not going to have much time for that. So I had to laugh, and I said, you know what? You actually should get a lot more done because this conference you're going to has thousands of your potential customers there, and you can talk to so many more people while you're there. And she's like, oh yeah, I didn't realize that. But at the end of the day, if you find where those people congregate, it could be offline at a conference, at a meetup, it could be online in a Facebook group or a forum.
Mm-hmm.
That is the easiest way to then really figure out what challenges people are facing, what words they're using, and start connecting with those types of people to understand them. And that's where your first set of customers are going to come from, is that group of people that are already congregated in a certain place that you truly understand, and finding what we call the early adopters, the ones that they're aware of the problem. It's an urgent thing that they want to solve. And now when you bring the right messaging and solution to them, they're like, yes, sign me up.
Yeah, I mean, we talked a little about this in last episode as well. You don't need to grow an audience, because this is part of that piece. That organic piece is you want to talk to those people and get that information before you start paying ads, because that's your most valuable information, is what your small, intimate audience is telling you, and you build off of that. And that's when you start running some sort of paid marketing.
Yeah, it's funny. So I have a lot of, I guess we have a lot of just, very good marketers in our circle. And time again, when I talk to them, what continues to come up is get traffic or get sales organically before paid.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, these are top experts that, people pay them to actually run paid traffic. And time again, they come back to that, because otherwise you're going to be spending a whole bunch of money and not really knowing like what's working, what's not.
Mm-hmm.
And, one of the key things that I really want to focus on here is that when you get into running paid marketing, there's a certain mindset that you have to have there. And this mindset really comes down to running a lot of tests, really looking at data, understanding how to read that data, and then make adjustments. So it's not like a lot of people think, where it's like, oh, well, I can't find customers organically, so if I just throw a bunch of money at the problem,
that'll be magic.
It'll fix it all. But, I see this time and time again. People get frustrated and they're like, well, I can't find these people that you're talking about, but I know everyone's on Facebook. So if I just run Facebook ads, it'll all work. Well, guess what? So with Facebook ads or Google ads or wherever else you're doing, you got to understand who you're targeting. You have to have the right message for them. You have to have enough money to be able to test different people targeting different
images. You have to
images.
understand how that software ultimately works, is that there's hundreds of thousands of other people also paying for ads on Facebook. So you're going up against them. And if you don't have the right audience targeted, the right people aren't going to be seeing your stuff. So you're ultimately paying for nothing.
Yeah. Well, and we did a previous episode really talking about like the customer journey. And one of the things people don't realize, so Facebook is a great platform and a lot of people do really well there, but you're interrupting people at that point, and they may or may not be ready to make a purchase. But if you think about other platforms, so for example, if somebody is on YouTube, they're much closer to making a purchase, especially if you're targeting like, how do I do this thing?
Mm-hmm.
Or if you're, running ads on Google, that person is likely a lot closer to a purchase. So what you also want to be doing when you're running paid traffic is thinking about, are they a hot customer, a warm customer, or a cold? And then making sure you're using the right platform and the right messaging for that.
Yep.
Like a lot of people never take the time to really figure out the customer journey, how they need to nurture people at each step along the way. And then they just throw money away because they've got some disconnects between the messaging, the platform, all of that.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I mean, if you're going to look at working with an ad agency, any good ad agency is going to require that you have a working funnel before they agree to work with you.
Yeah.
They want something where you've said, okay, look, I did this, I ran this, and I had all of these sales come through organically when I ran this webinar or when I ran this particular ad and sequence afterwards. They want to see that you have a proven funnel that's actually making money before they're going to say, yeah, we'll run your ads for you. Because for them, to take your money to run ads, it's not helping them be more successful if they're running your ads and nothing's converting. Yeah. And then you're coming back and being like, well, what's happening? Why aren't you getting me sales on the end of this funnel? They want to be able to get those sales coming through to show you how their ad method is working.
Well, and you bring up an excellent point. So money itself never solves a problem. It enhances what is already there. So if you're having trouble selling organically and then you go and throw a bunch of money at it, you're just going to be wasting money on that, because it's not like, spending more money isn't going to suddenly fix your problem. Yeah. You got to figure out what the problem is. But if you have a product that you've been able to sell organically and you have all those pieces lined up, now spending more money on marketing is going to bring more of the right people there and make it all work. So that's something I think, we see a lot, is that people think throwing money at a problem is going to solve it. Mm-hmm. But if you don't truly understand what the problem is and solve that first, money isn't going to fix it.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like I just need to take a moment of silence after that one.
Well, and the other piece too, this is something, because everybody talks about sales and marketing, what is often missed is operations and making sure you can actually deliver to your customers. So, I mean, we did a show on this a couple episodes ago, show 113, called Stop Losing Your Customers. Mm-hmm. And what we've seen when companies try to scale too fast is that if they get their sales and marketing components of their business working really well, but they haven't looked at the onboarding and they haven't looked at the infrastructure to be able to support that. I mean, there's a lot of examples out there of companies that they ran like a Super Bowl ad, for example, mm-hmm. and then guess what? Their website went down. Last thing you want to do is spend $1 million on a Super Bowl ad and then not have people get to your website. Or they suddenly get a whole rash of orders and they can't fulfill them. Mm-hmm. So now you had customers that were potentially really excited about getting your product, and now suddenly you guys say, sorry, we don't have enough. We can't give them to you. Mm-hmm. Like, that's going to take somebody that could have been a raving fan and now suddenly turn them off. Yeah. So what you want to make sure when you're using paid marketing is that the money you're putting out is going to come back to you. But then two, you can actually deliver to all the people that you can pull in from paid marketing. And a lot of people miss out on this. And this hurts companies, just as much as not being able to get any customers in. Yes. You have too many customers, you're going to end up disappointing a lot of people. You're going to put stress on your team and your systems.
That's a lot of stress on your infrastructure.
Yeah. I mean, like, we're actually going through right now and kind of reevaluating our infrastructure because we're expecting a lot of growth this year. But before we really build out that growth, we want to make sure that every customer that comes in, we can support them and give them a really good experience.
Mm-hmm. All right. So one of the things that is really important about paid marketing is that you truly understand your customer journey. And it's actually going to seem it might seem a little bit odd, but you want to move from hot to cold.
I say this is one of the funniest things.
It's very funny. Like, most people are trying so hard to get new customers in, and they're trying to get the customers in that have absolutely no idea who they are. Mm-hmm. Like, a lot of people run paid ads, and they're running paid ads to cold customers who've never heard of them, who have never heard of their product or their service. Instead, you want to focus on the people who know you.
Well, I was going to say, and it's so funny because when people get started, they're all like, it seems ironic, but they always start at the people that are furthest away from the purchase. So we often talk about the path to purchase, and you've got people that are cold. They don't know you and they don't know the problem. They're not aware. You got people that are aware of the problem, but they're researching solutions, but they're not quite ready to buy yet.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the people that are ready to buy. They're just looking for the right company. What you want to be doing is starting backwards. You want to start at the people that are closest to a purchase and really work and support them. But what do most people do? They create a website. They create a whole bunch of content.
They create a Facebook page.
Yeah, and that content is set to like introduce people to the problem or like warm them up. But they're targeting cold people. What you want to be doing is always looking for like, who are the hot people? Who are the people that are ready to make a purchase, and spend most of the time there.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do that, what you get, like we call that the short path. So you want to take the people from the shortest path possible. One, that is going to get you cash the fastest. But two, what it's also going to do is prove out that your sales process works.
Mm-hmm.
So people agree to purchase. They can then pay you. They can then get onboarded, and that thing works. So once you get that working, now you can kind of move out to the medium path.
Yeah, the warm people who you want to now make hot.
Yep. And so with that, now the content you create, the questions people ask, you're nurturing them through.
Mm-hmm.
But because you already know the short path works,
yep,
you're just tagging on to that. And then ultimately, eventually, you'll get out to the cold people and be bringing them in. But if you think about it, most people start at the cold people, and they're trying to build all of that infrastructure, mm-hmm, all of that marketing out. That is the hardest path to take. It's the longest path to take, and it's going to cost you the most money.
Yeah, and often it's hard to hone in on who those people are when it's like you're trying to fish in a humongous lake, as opposed to going to the little pond first and catching the fish and figuring out all about them before you go to the big lake and be like, oh, I know exactly what fish I'm trying to catch. Now I just realized I'm using the analogy that we used in the book.
I was going to say, is this a subliminal conversation for the book?
I didn't even think about that, but it works out well. Yeah, you want to know exactly what type of fish you're looking to catch, what type of bait they like, what type of fishing pole you should be using, when you should be going out, morning, evening, middle of the day. So starting with your hot leads, your best chances of having customers turn up, and then moving to warm, and then going out to the cold audience, that's your best chance to get that organic funnel working, which then in turn gives you the best chance when you move into paid marketing.
Yeah, it's funny because I think after we explain this to people, they're like, oh yeah, that makes so much sense. Mm-hmm. And then when they kind of look back at what they were doing, they made it so much more difficult for themselves because they were trying to build all of that out.
Yeah. And let's be honest, it's really tough coming in as a newer business owner and you're seeing what everyone else is doing and you automatically think like, oh, well, they're successful. They're doing this. I should be doing that. So many people, I can't tell you how many people I've talked to that are like, oh, well, Amy Porterfield does this. So I should be doing that for my business. Yep. I'm like, no.
Amy Porterfield has a $5 million a year business. So Amy Porterfield is doing what somebody with a $5 million a year business has.
Yeah.
You don't have that yet.
No.
You're a couple steps back. So you want to do what Amy was doing back when she just got started.
Mm-hmm. She already knows who her audience is. She's doing marketing to her cold audience because she wants to bring the most people in and warm them up to get them to purchase. She's at a much higher stage than anybody that's just new coming in or has been in business for only, a year or two. You have to start at that really, really small, intimate level in order to ever get up to that level.
Yeah, well,
she took steps just like all the rest of us.
Well, I was going to say, so it's funny. One of the first online courses that I bought was actually Amy's course, and it was like a $99 course. Mm-hmm. I mean, you go through it.
That was a while back.
Yeah, but that's where she got started, and I think that's the challenge a lot of people have is they don't realize what steps people took from when they got started to where they see them now. But
well, and it's not sexy when people tell you like, oh, here's where I started to get where I am now. You don't want to have to start there. A lot of people want to skip over and hit that easy button and just get right to the $5 million business. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah. Well, and I always tell people it's funny. I'm like, listen, if you're not embarrassed at the beginning of what your business looks like, you did too much, because so many people come in and they're like, want to have a pretty logo and they want to build a website and they want to do all this stuff that doesn't directly get them customers. Like your first goal should be to make that first dollar. Because when you make that first dollar, everything works. And guess what? I want you to collect that dollar in the easiest way possible. That might be sending somebody a PayPal link and they pay, or even they're just sending it to you on PayPal. Like you want to keep your tools as simple as possible. You want to do the least amount of work. You want to be lazy. You want to do the least amount of work possible to get that result. But what a lot of people do is they end up doing everything else around that. And it ends up, one, delaying how long it takes to make money. And then two, makes their business a lot more complicated than it needs to be early on.
I mean, to use us as an example, we're revamping everything that we have right now and really simplifying it because we got caught up in the same flow that a lot of other people did where it was like, oh, we have to do this and we have to do this and we have to be over here. And over the years, you can spread yourself really thin when you're trying to do all of these things at the same time. Really, what you want to do is simplify it back down to that most basic level and build from there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's funny. Like I was at a conference recently all with like podcasters and someone was like, so how long have you been podcasting? I was like, well, we did our first one like 4 years ago, but then we realized that was the wrong thing to do at the wrong time. Like we didn't have
wasn't the right audience
down. We didn't have our brand down. We weren't making enough sales at that point to justify the podcast because the podcast, like
time and money.
When you go on somebody else's podcast, you're doing organic marketing right. You're leveraging a little bit of time and you're getting in front of their audience, which is what you want to do early on. You don't want to build your own podcast until you've got more time to nurture people because a podcast or any sort of content marketing like this is a longer term game. So when we stopped that podcast, we realized we were doing things out of order. We honed in on our audience, got paying customers, rebranded a couple times, and then ultimately said, okay, now that we've got this all aligned and we've got paying customers, now let's see how we can further support people that might be ideal customers but are colder. Maybe they're not familiar with us yet. And that was when we created the podcast and started putting those things in to nurture people through more.
Yeah. Man. Yeah. Just flows. All right. What are your actions for today's show?
So first thing I want you guys to do is just do essentially an audit of your marketing. And if you haven't listened to the show that we did, show 113 on how to stop losing customers, what I want you to do is really look at your customer journey and think about where your marketing efforts are spent. Do you have that short path of hot customers, their ability to purchase, and have you really vamped that out? Because what you may find as you go through and audit all of your marketing is you're spending a lot of time on like cold audiences where you can actually make money faster and serve people better by focusing first on the hot and the warm audiences. About you?
I'm going to suggest that you go and find somebody in either your industry or somebody that you follow and walk through one of their organic funnels. So go to their website or to their Facebook page and see what they're doing to pull people in and where they take them on that journey afterwards organically. So this means like don't click on a sponsored ad in Facebook, but go to somebody's page and see how they pull people in and then how they take them through that journey afterwards to kind of get an idea of what that looks like.
It's funny. That reminds me. So one of the things I'll often do with new clients is I'll essentially pretend I'm a customer.
You go through their funnel.
And I'll walk through what the experience was. And, this one client I was working with, they were like struggling to get sales on their website. And so I said, well, let me kind of walk through things. And I mapped out each step. And in order to purchase one of their products, I had to go through 14 different steps. So if I'm that hot customer where I'm like, I need this thing, let me go get it, I'm not going to go through all 14 steps on their website. So one of the things we did was we revamped things and we said, we're going to first focus on hot customers. So when somebody comes to the website, if they're ready to buy right away, it's super simple and they get in. Then we said, well, let's now take this for the warm customer. So on the page, it was like hot customer, click the button to buy. warm customer, we're giving a little bit more support as to like how this helps them, talking a little bit about the problem. And then for the cold customer, we're actually sending them to a quick win, a much faster thing, and putting them through a nurture sequence to then warm them up before they buy.
Mm-hmm.
So by doing that, it was crazy at just how like right away it was like, oh, I'm starting to get more customers. But it's because those people that were already familiar and wanted to buy had a much easier path. Like you don't want to make it difficult for your customers to buy.
No. All right. So what do we got to help people out today if they're struggling with how to get started in organic marketing before they start putting money into paid marketing?
Yeah. So we have our Lifestyle Builders Incubator program. And really what this is a 90-day program to help you walk through all of these steps. So we've broken this down week by week on how to understand your customers, understand what your initial product or service is going to be, and put the messaging together and put all of this organic together to get your first set of sales. So if you guys are interested in that, if you're creating a product for the first time, if you've been at this a while and it's just not coming together, we'd love to help you out. And you guys can join that by going to joinlifestylebuilders.com.
Yay, I'm so excited. We don't have a book on the bookshelf today. We've decided...
We have a really good book, which is called Lifestyle Builders.
I meant we didn't have a specific book off of our bookshelf. It's just that book right there, which is coming out very soon. And we're excited to share more details about that with you guys. So I think that's all we got. It's been another great episode with Tom and Ariana, your hosts and lifestyle builders.
And as always, I want you guys to remember that it's your life, your business, your way. We'll see you next time.
Bye. Hey, we hope you enjoyed this episode. If you know another entrepreneur who may benefit from hearing this show, we would so appreciate you being a good friend and sharing it with them. Are you dreaming of a life of financial freedom and more time to spend with your loved ones? Want to build your business to support that dream? You need Lifestyle Builders, a mentorship program designed to meet you where you are and give you strategic and custom guidance so you can build the business you need for the life you crave. Become a lifestyle builder at joinlifestylebuilders.com. Are you a Lifestyle Builders podcast fan? We'd love to hear from you. Head on over to tomandariana.com/iTunes and leave us a review.